What's going on, folks? I'm your host, Alex Sendek. Welcome back to another edition of the Home Run podcast. Last time, we talked about everything short-term rental, from the financing side with Beeline all the way to actually managing the property with our friends at Red Awning. Today, we're switching gears just a bit and speaking with our CEO of Beeline. Similarly to the mortgages his company sells, he likes to keep things a little non-traditional. It is not your run-of-the-mill mortgage executive, which is something I both envy and admire. I think it's important to add that when you start the most progressive mortgage lender in the industry during debatably the toughest market for lenders, home buyers, investors, realtors, everyone in between, there are more important attributes you need to have. Two biggest ones that come to mind for me are optimism and resilience, traits often associated with tech founders. Nick, Liuzza, I promised I wouldn't go overboard on the intro. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Alex. And I must say that I do a lot of podcasts. I speak a lot, but I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. And I'm actually a little upset it took so long to get an invite to our own podcast, given I'm the CEO of the company. But hey, all good. I'm here. Let's plow through it.
Awesome. Well, hey, listen, that was not my call, but you mean everything to us, Nick. Thank you so much for coming on. And hey, to start things off, I think we need to kind of let's just pop open the hood a little bit, see what makes Nick tick. Listen, just to let's start way back. Originally, I know you're from New Orleans. Let's dive into that a little bit. It's probably about as far away from doing mortgages based in Rhode Island as you can get. So I guess first question, are you a Frenchman Street guy or a Bourbon Street kind of guy?
I am a Frenchman Street guy. That's where the music is. The tourists can waste their time on Bourbon Street, but if they actually spend a little more time on Frenchman, that's where they will find the food, the music, and the fun.
Absolutely. As a avid admirer of the beautiful city of New Orleans myself, I couldn't agree more. Gosh, I love that city. So glad to see we're aligned there.
There's actually a new area to the city called the Bywater District. I don't know if you've been there or not. It's a little it's very close to Frenchman Street, and it's an evolving local color area that has local music, and it's going to rival Frenchman Street over time.
I'll have to check that out next time I'm there. Trust me, I'll put it on my list.
Awesome.
So, what? Let's talk a little more into just kind of your growing up. How was that like growing up in the city of New Orleans? What were your folks like? How was that whole dynamic in that crazy city?
Yeah, look, I'm a little older than you. So, at the time when I grew up, some of the regulations and rules against, what age you can and cannot drink were different than they are today. And sort of the enforcement of those rules were different as well. So, I mean, literally, when I grew up in New Orleans, there were bars that were actually designed for underage drinkers, believe it or not. You could actually pull up to a daiquiri stand and actually drive through and get a drive-through daiquiri in the city of New Orleans when I grew up. So it's a bit of a different city than it is. In some ways, that has shaped me to who I am in a really positive way. In some ways, maybe not so quite as much. But you can't change your past, and I'm proud of my past.
Non-traditional childhood, non-traditional mortgage company, non-traditional guy. I'm starting to catch a trend a little bit there. I think I get it now. But
yeah, listen, I would say we're non-traditional. I mean, look, our team, as you know, built Linear Title. We merged it with Real Matters. We brought it public on the TSX. And I've been thinking, along with the rest of our co-founders, about, having a micro cap publicly traded mortgage company for a good 10 years. And, we're the only micro cap publicly traded mortgage company out there. We now have NASDAQ currency to go and do acquisitions, to retain employees, to hire new employees. We really are positioned really nicely to kind of take the next step and be that next sort of, where's that company coming from? Who are they? Who's Beeline, right? Because we have a lot to offer. And remember, we've been building software in a really difficult market for a long time. And you're right. When we launched our platform, it was our timing couldn't have been worse. We launched into COVID. We launched into 2 wars. We launched into supply chain issues. We launched into increasing interest rates, all with a brand new brand and a brand new company and a brand new platform. So what do? We launched, in June of 2020, and we instantly went from 0 closings to 120 closings in 90 days. That was pretty good. But remember, the market was pretty good at the time. So when the market turned, we didn't get a chance to build our brand like these other companies like Rocket and Loan
Sure.
Depot. They built their brand in really low environment market. And so it's been harder for us, but we made a key decision, Alex. We decided to keep our foot on the gas pedal. We decided to continue to build software. We were concerned about market conditions, and we knew the decision wouldn't be beneficial to our balance sheet, but we knew it'd be beneficial to our shareholders and to our employees, because we knew when the window opened, we would be ready to take the next step. And we've made some really good decisions along the way, like, incorporating the non-QM platform and some of the non-QM loans into a traditional conventional platform, allowing our consumers to pick a path. And, as you can't go to, any of the major banks and get a DSCR loan. You can't go and get a bank statement loan. And with the emerging gig economy and the emerging non-W2 employee, we offer a nice change of pace and a wider variety of loans to help that next emerging generation, buy the house of their dreams.
I think that's a lot to unpack right there, and I'm glad we got a full podcast to talk about it in a lot more detail. Number one, let me just say this.
Yep.
I don't know of anywhere, I don't care what mortgage company you can think of, there's nowhere that you can get a conventional loan a conventional loan and non-QM investment loans in one place.
Honestly, when we made that decision to incorporate the non-QM, and we started with the DSCR, which is the most popular non-QM loan at the moment, and then we went to bank statement, and then we incorporated a couple others. It was not a popular decision internally. Our former CFO was not happy with that decision, and we had some former employees, but at the end of the day, I honestly don't know. You have a fiduciary responsibility as a mortgage lender to make sure that you are providing a suitable product for your borrower. Yeah. And I don't know how you do that in today's world if you don't have a wider spectrum of options beyond conventional mortgages. I just don't know how you do it. And so the way we think about it is, as you mentioned, our loan guides are very well versed on the conventional side and the non-QM side. And so they kind of act as a wealth manager would act, in some respects, in terms of what's the most suitable product based on the situation at hand. And we're one of the few lenders that can actually provide that advice and provide that, under one platform.
But when you think about it, that could get really hairy and complex, and yet the experience is so simplified and approachable. There's this wide range of loan options, yet you also have application figures out kind of what you need and serves up a custom experience. And just oftentimes you can apply, see loan options, and even just lock in just one sitting. And I think that's something that, again, we're doing something super complex and yet condensed it into a simplified and approachable way. And I think that's something that's pretty special. Yeah.
And I would give a shout out to our product team in Australia, which is where our product team is based, as you know. I think that is, those guys have really done an excellent job absorbing and understanding non-QM path, the process, and how to condense our own point of sale, which is all proprietary. The front end of our platform is completely our own platform. And so when you go through our platform, we're asking the questions we need to accommodate both loans, or both types of loans at least. And so I would say, I'm not going to say we mastered it, but we did develop, we were the first conventional lender that I know of, the first centralized.
Certainly novel. It's certainly novel, I'd say.
Yeah. The first centralized digital lender to kind of incorporate it and move forward with it. So look, our revenue grew, 38% from 2024 to 2023, when the industry only grew 9%, right? So we were up, on the industry, we gained market share, and that was only because we had these multi-products. Otherwise, we would have been lost in the shuffle.
Sure. No, 100%. Now, I have to ask, I know we've had some big news here. How did it feel when you got listed on the NASDAQ a few weeks ago? That must have been a heck of an experience.
Yeah, look, I mean, like I said, we've been thinking about this for a long time, and we analyze a bunch of different ways to be a NASDAQ company, whether it would be a traditional IPO or a forward merger, which is how we actually ended up being listed. And so the process is it's a difficult process. It's a long process, an expensive process, right? But at the end of the day, now that we are approved by the NASDAQ and we are in good standing with the NASDAQ and we have the ability, again, to use NASDAQ currency for acquisitions and to raise money, it feels good. It feels like our timing is really good this time. It feels like our platform is ready. We're more experienced. Some of our biggest expenses are behind us now. And we can only look forward to a slightly improving market. And look, April is our best month. It's going to be our best month since the downturn. We just got over the $1 billion mark in originations. And so we certainly are headed in the right direction.
100%, couldn't agree more. And NASDAQ is typically, again, it's a tech forward stock index, right? And so just talking about the tech side of it, I don't know if we've really even unpacked how much tech Beeline really has to offer. I mean, the impact AI has had during the last 2 years has given us unbelievably powerful technology, right? And that can deliver uncompromised, personalized quality, better website conversion, scalable sales, cost saving, all the way through to more automated underwriting and doc processing, which also drives down our cost to produce. These are better tools than there were available to us to fulfill our vision of better, less transactional, more supportive experience, get done at scale than to use when we launched in 2020. So even though things have taken longer, it has been strangely a plus to land here. So I don't know if you want to talk about Bob or just that kind of stuff, but it's just crazy.
Definitely. Listen, that's one of the reasons for being public is to go out there and raise capital to continue to build software. Because our stated goal when we drew this company up was when we looked around and we understood that most legacy mortgage lenders are closing between 1.5 to 2 loans per employee per month. That's not a great outcome. That's a lot of butts and seats, a lot of paper pushing, for an industry that kind of, talks about becoming more automated and more software focused. It's really not. And so our stated goal is to get to 6 to 7 loans closed per employee per month, which would reduce the high cost of origination. It costs $13,000 to originate a loan right now. Who's paying for that, right? The consumer is paying for that. And that's not the greatest outcome in the world. So, now that we have access to capital, we're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas pedal and build our software. And I think we're the only mortgage lender that actually has a platform that's willing to license out the software that we build to our competitors. We're going to license out Blink QC, which is a QC product. We're licensing out Magic Blocks, right? And so we're not. We like that revenue stream. We like the way what it can do for us.
I think you touched on Bob. I don't know if everybody understands what Bob truly is, and I think that's a super important message. Just get into Bob just for a minute.
Yeah. So look, Bob, I think was one of the first AI chatbots in the mortgage industry. If we weren't the first, we were certainly in the top 2 or 3. National Mortgage News came out and basically gave us some really good praise for that particular product. And so Bob initially was a customer service sort of reactive tool who answered questions for consumers or borrowers that were going through the mortgage process with us or the point of sale. And, we spent a lot of time on that. It's an orchestrated model that we tied together 6 different platforms. We created a brain that we put on top of it to regulate compliance and to make sure that Bob got smarter with every single conversation. It truly is machine learning. And then his conversations and his responses were spot on. They were fast. And oh, by the way, they encompassed non-QM and conventional. And so we were definitely the first AI chatbot to accommodate both under one roof. There's no doubt about that. And now here we are sort of like in version 2 of Bob, who is now being, he's not just reactive, now he's proactive. He's probing questions. He's taking low level leads and converting those leads into conversations and into locks 6 or 7 times better than our employees do, because he's nonstop. He's 24/7. He's like the Duracell battery. He never stops. Yeah.
Right. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah,
it really is. I think it's a game changer. I know it helps the team when we have, again, like you said, just having somebody on off hours is big thing. So,
yeah. And you asked a question about being a non-traditional CEO, which I do believe we are a non-traditional management team. But, for me, you have to remember when I took over or started this company with our management team, I had zero mortgage experience. I didn't know, how to run a mortgage company. I had never worked in a mortgage company. I was never part of a mortgage process.
And that's a question I had, not to cut you off. That's a question I have is that
Okay.
I'll wait. Is that let's talk about that right now. Is
okay.
that you don't have well, I'm going to say you are not new to the mortgage industry,
yes.
but you're certainly new to being a mortgage CEO. And so maybe if you want to tell folks kind of how this all came about, I think it's a pretty special story. As somebody who is a loan officer that used your company frequently beforehand, I think it's pretty special. So I'll let you go.
Look, we believe as a management team, we believe that high ceilings, intellect, sense of urgency, raw abilities trump experience, right? And so, in the short term, the experience is better, don't get me wrong, but in the long term, if an experienced person does not have those qualities that I just mentioned, the person that has the higher ceiling is gonna outperform. So if we could fill our company with those sort of people, then that becomes a real big opportunity, which is what we did, right? Our COO has zero mortgage experience. Our CFO has zero mortgage experience. Our product team, for God's sake, is based in Australia. There's no way they have any U.S. mortgage experience, right? And so it was a rough hoe, if you will, or a rough ride, gaining the experience in real time and sort of putting our, putting our best foot forward in a really tough market, trying to build software, grow a business, raise money, and every single day you have to read a headline about how bad the industry is for 3 years. But here we are, 4 years later since we launched, and we all have 4 years experience now. We now, I have 4 years experience running a mortgage company at least. Our product team has more experience. We're getting better by the day. But my question kind of, when I asked you about employee retention, it kind of tied into the fact, that we are different and that we have been able to retain experienced people who would come in and sit in the seat and say, what the hell is this company doing? That's wrong. That's wrong. I've never seen that done before. And still, even though we did make our fair share of mistakes, we were able to retain these people who are really good people. And I'm so thankful we are, because that base is going to carry us to a whole brand new level. So we kind of have done a really good job of taking a non-traditional approach, but incorporating experience into our platform at the same time. People like yourself and the team that you're bringing on board to help with the loan guides.
Now, all right, let's go back to let's have another childhood question here. Now, there's a very specific question I've been asked to ask you.
Okay.
It's New Orleans based.
Yep.
Tell us your favorite Nutria story.
Well, remember,
So
the origin of Nutria is a river. It's a river rat, for lack of a better word. And if you look up the word Nutria or you Google the word Nutria, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so in Louisiana, the bayous are filled with water lilies, and the water lilies can become very thick, and boats have a tough time getting through. So someone had the bright idea a long time ago to say, you know what? Let's bring over these Nutria from France, because they are vegetarians and they will eat these water lilies, and we won't have this boating issue with, whoever made that decision didn't do their research, because when they brought all these Nutria over, the Nutria were like, hell, man, look at all the stuff in the bayou. There's way better stuff to eat than water lilies. And so the Nutria became sort of a, I don't know what you want to say, but it became sort of like the second state bird, if you will, or state animal, right? And so now Nutria, the Cajuns on the bayou do eat Nutria. But my favorite story is a friend of mine who thinks that Nutria, you can walk into any restaurant in Louisiana and eat a Nutria and order Nutria, which is not true. But he's hell bent. He's like, you absolutely can do this, Nick. And I'm like, Dino, who's also a shareholder, I grew up in New Orleans. You cannot order. So anyway, we are in New Orleans and we're at a place called Port au Call. And he brings it up again. He's like, man, I want to buy some Nutria. I want to eat some Nutria. And I'm sitting there with him. And I'm like, Dino, there is no way or nowhere you can find a place to eat Nutria. And just then, there's three guys sitting in front of us who were born on the bayou, and they turned around and they said, "What are you talking about?" in their Cajun voice. And they said, we went out Nutria hunting yesterday, and they showed us a picture, this like journal of all the pictures of preparing to go Nutria hunting, the end product of hunting Nutria, and then the cooking of Nutria, and then the eating of Nutria, all in one sort of like, family album here.
Lovely.
And I'm just like, okay, Dino, maybe you're right, but you can't get it in a restaurant. You have to go to the bayou to get it. So that's my story.
That's amazing. Let's go back to the startup part of Beeline.
Yep.
Let's take it to there. Any startup is hard, and 90% fail, and a mortgage startup is super hard.
Yeah.
What the heck were you thinking, man? Why? You had already done well. You could have just sat on your butt. What's the driver?
Yeah, that's true. And my wife reminds me of that all the time. But, we could have, we had a really good outcome with linear title. And, that was a really strong opportunity, and it returned a lot of capital to our shareholders. And so, but, I just really felt inside that this mortgage space was an opportunity for our team to come in and make a difference. I really felt that. I didn't know that it was going to be as hard as what it has been. And so, that was sort of maybe me being naive, if you will. I certainly wasn't expecting the market to kind of fall apart. That added a whole new level of complexity to this.
No one did.
Yep. But I really felt like, at the end of the day, we're not revolutionizing anything here. We're not creating electricity. We're not creating a brand new, rocket to take to the moon. But what we are doing, I think, is addressing the pain and the needs of the next generation and the property investors that have kind of been overlooked in the mortgage process. Mm-hmm. And I think we're making an impact in both of those demographics. A, we're lowering their cost. B, we are providing, a platform and a better a path to a mortgage and to home ownership. And I think we'll continue to do that.
What about, you mentioned hard moments. What would you say? What would you say has been the hardest moments?
Well, I think the hardest moments were really, underestimating the complexity of the business and then compounding that again. I mean, it's already a difficult business. I mean, when you look at how many companies, how many mortgage lenders have failed, especially for people that come in that don't have industry experience. I think, people that aren't in the industry, they kind of look at the business and they say, what's the problem here, man? This is not that hard. Let's go. And I think if you go back and analyze all the people that said that, you would see a high failure rate. And so we were sort of guilty of that, although we had a little context being in the title business. So we kind of underestimated the complexity of it. But I think that being, underestimating the complexity of it in conjunction with, the worst real estate market in 30 years, and having to raise money, you have to remember, for the past 3 years, very few companies have actually made money. Very few, which means that
very few.
Everyone has had to either raise money or incur debt to survive. Period.
I think a lot of people in the public would be shocked that, like just that part alone. Just mortgage companies don't make the money that I think a lot of people think.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to. You know what I mean? Like it's a testament. If you do that, it's very challenging. It's not like it's not what the public thinks by any means.
And so if you think about what I'm saying though, is like all these companies, including Beeline, had to raise money to survive. Right. It's the only way to survive. Right. Everyone's losing money, and so having to go out there and raise money when the headlines are the mortgage industry is crashing, the mortgage industry is not coming back anytime soon, rates are going up, supply chain issues. Oh, did I tell you there's a war? Oh, how did you like the COVID thing? Because, all those every single day you would have an investor presentation going, and you would have to deal with those headlines,
inflation,
there's a bunch of stuff not being where they needed to be for rates to go down. So all these. So really, it's a testament to the fact that we're resilient, we're focused, we don't give up, we're never going to fail. That's never an acceptable word in anything that I have to do with ever. So, we're in a much better spot now. And again, April is going to be our strongest month, and since the market turned, and May's going to only be better. And I think we're starting to find our groove in this investment property space. I think we're starting to find that we're making a difference when we compete for space on the web to sell our services. The competition isn't as fierce because our value prop is a little different now. It's like, hey, conventional or non-QM, Mr. Property Investor, Mr. Millennial, come see us. And as the other centralized large lenders, and we're not a large lender, but the large ones can't say that. So when we say that and we buy space for that, it's not quite as expensive as going up against toe-to-toe with Rocket or Loan Depot on an FHA or a VA loan.
I think it's time for another childhood question. No. Yeah. What did you study? Where did you go to school? What did you study? And did you prepare for this at all?
So
I prepare you for this at all, I should say.
I studied marketing at LSU.
Nice.
And, I can't say that, I think a lot of people who went to college for, in business degrees or, in other degrees and went into business can say that, I don't know if college really prepared me for this. In my case, I don't think it did. When you start companies, build companies, and take the next step, whether it's the exit or hand them off to someone else, you don't really. Back when I went to school, you didn't get that sort of training. There was no entrepreneur programs. There weren't anything that talked about EBITDA or talked about how you value your company or talked about how to retain employees. There was nothing of that, right? Now you can get some of that in school. So, for me, I'm highly dyslexic. I have a raging case of ADD. It's a rare combination. And so I'm a very visual learner. I'm not a good pick up a book, read it, and take a test. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who learns through people. I'm the guy who empowers people and watches them do their jobs and learns, from people that are around me. The person who doesn't work well in our environment is the person who micromanages or believes he or she is smarter than everyone else. Those are the two people that we can't deal with, right? Because we need people that want to get better, including myself, and we want people that empower people. Because if you have to micromanage people, then you have the wrong people. Start all over again, tear it up, and find people that you don't have to micromanage. And that's the reason why we empower people like yourself, right? And that's the reason why you empower the next people, right? Because this is a gumbo. I'll use a New Orleans term here, right? This is not a dictatorship. This is not, white rice and that's it. Let's just go with the white rice and whatever the leader says. This is a gumbo, man. There's crawfish, there's shrimp, there is artichoke, there is okra. There's everything in this gumbo, and the sum of all the parts is what makes us special. It's one person or one thing. When you have that one person or one thing who thinks that it's all them, that's when you have problems.
For someone young about to embark on what you've done, what would you tell your son? How would you go about it? What's your best piece of advice?
I tend to jump into things and figure them out and not necessarily plan appropriately or properly. And so I'm the kind of guy who likes to learn in real time and figure things out in real time and work with people. And I think that, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have spent a little more time planning and setting goals. I know it sounds, a little hokey and everyone says the same damn thing. But if you're going to go into a company and you're going to raise money and you're going to bring in money, other people's money, or you're going to write your own checks, either way, I think you want to probably make sure that you are not, you're using that money appropriately. So I would say, spend some time planning, go and work for a company that does what you might want to do. Or, think about an apprenticeship some sort of way before you just go out there and start your own company. It doesn't have to be a year, but just think about it a bit more. And then once you make a decision, stick to that decision. You can modify your decision for sure. You can add new products and services, but don't get freaked out at the first sign of roadblocks, or headwinds, right? Have confidence in your model, have confidence in yourself, right? Be careful who you listen to. Everyone has advice. Everyone has a solution. Everyone wants to help, and so who you listen to is really, really important. And make sure you surround yourself with people you can trust. That's the biggest thing. You have to trust people. And
how do you trust people? That's my one. Like, where do you find how do you find people you trust? How do you trust? It's so hard.
Yeah. Well,
that's the hard part, right?
It's a gut decision. And then it comes down to, again, empowering those people and seeing how they deal with that power, and so, if they don't deal with that power appropriately, then you fire them immediately.
That's a good call. Giving them little tests, right?
Yeah. You empower them and you see how they deal with it. And then you keep empowering them more and more as they continue to get better and better. And that's how you do it, right? But if anyone who thinks they can go and do a company and it's going to be a dictatorship and it's one way or the highway, that's a recipe for failure in my mind.
I agree. That's some really good stuff right there. Nick Liuzza, I know you're an extremely busy man, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. For all you listeners out there, thank you most of all. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We have some great stuff in the pipeline for future shows. I can't wait to see you next time.